Welcome back to Underway Drifting and Dreaming. I'm Jennifer, and my husband Jim, aka Mr. Do-It-Yourself, are at the dock in Demopolis, Alabama, the Kingfisher Bay Marina. I'm just out watching the tugboat at sunrise, but with the heat index this week, today it's supposed to feel like 104, we'll be inside working instead of doing outside maintenance. Jim will be in the maintenance room today. He will be taking care of the Raycor. It's a model 75-900 FGX Raycor fuel water separator. And he'll be replacing the fuel filter, the gasket, and the fuel bowls on it. So come on down. It's a little noisy in the maintenance room because the air conditioning's running and it's just a very noisy room. But Jim will walk you through it. First he'll go through one side and then he'll take over the filming and quickly go through the second side. So join us on board and see what we're doing when we're not out on the water.
So these are our primary fuel filters. All three tanks are behind this wall. They all come through our manifold. They feed through here. And right now it's selected to this one. We turned it on at 9,500 hours. So we've got about 100 hours on this one. This one was in use at 9,000 hours and I switched it over. So this one actually had about 500 hours in it. Our fuel is always very clean. So what this is a water, primary fuel water separator. It's got a little turbine wheel in there. The water spins and it'll allow any type of water to collect in here. So we have these filters. They're a 10 micron filter. We've got a bunch of spares. So the idea is that we have two of them and you run one, and in case you have an issue with fuel contamination, you just switch it to the other side and the new one's ready to go. So we're not just going to replace the fuel filters today. I'm actually going to redo all of the seals and the kits. I'm going to drain out the fuel, and I'm going to take this all completely apart. This right here leaks too, so I'm going to put a wrench on it and tighten it down. See how it just dripped a little bit of water? So we keep a towel under there underway. It doesn't drip much, but I just need to unloosen it and then reset it and stop that leak. But I'll replace all the seals. It's got a little float ball in there. The drain underneath there has a seal. So there's about 10 or 12 different seals in here, all the instructions. So that's my project today. Also, this is a vacuum gauge. It hasn't moved since we've started. You can tap it, it'll come down. I've got a brand new gauge that either I'm going to set here or it fits on top of one of these T-handles. I may just put it on the T-handle because that's what it's designed for. So you can keep track of the vacuum. So if the filter starts plugging up, it'll cause more vacuum pressure, and you can have an indicator of when you need to replace the filters. Again, this thing, I don't think this gauge has worked. The new gauge has this little tab on the top. It's supposed to be open, so this may be fine, but I just noticed this little rubber piece is pushed down. So if it's the same one, I may be able to pop it up and actually get this gauge to work. In the case, I'm leaving it on here anyways, because there'll be a hole without it. But we'll have a new gauge also on the active one. So here's how I test. I call it my clear and bright. And so that's sort of an aviation term when you're getting fuel. When I used to fly in the helicopters in the Coast Guard, you get a clear and bright test. And before you took on fuel from a ship to the helicopter, we could be sitting off to the side of the ship. We wouldn't necessarily land the ship. We'd come to a hover and would send our hoist down, and they would fill up 2 mason jars with fuel for a sample, and we'd hoist it back on. Our mechanic would spin it. You look at it to see if there's any contaminants or water in it, and they would just use mason jars like that before we take on fuel from the ship. So called clear and bright, same thing here. It's a little bleed valve at the bottom, open it up. This one's not draining much fuel. What I may do is open this, relieve the pressure because it's going this way. This one is closed, so without, there we go. It just needed some ventilation. If it's turned on, then it's open. So I'm going to drain this one all the way down.
And I see debris on there. Is that debris?
This is discoloration of that turbine wheel. So when I take this apart, I'm going to clean those up really well, and then we won't see that on there. Alright, so I'll put the lid back on it. You kind of look at it in the tornado.
I see chunks in there.
Yeah, it's definitely had some dirt in this housing. So these are parts of dirt that came out of the on the bottom of the filter housing. So it's collecting some dirt, and then what the filters don't catch, of course, drop it down here. There's no water in it, which is good. So we're going to drain this all the way out. That'll take a little bit, but I've got an old empty oil jug. We won't reuse this fuel. This will go with the waste oil. You can kind of see inside there. Definitely some black crud and stuff in there. So it's doing its job. It's capturing all that. It may look pretty bad, but some of these boats you see, the filters are completely black, especially if they've been sitting around for a while. So there was definitely some sand and stuff in there, put a white color to it. You can see the black grit that came out of fuel tanks. This, the top here, get this up making a mess. So this is a 10 micron filter. Normally the fuel is right up to the top here, and it can be messy here. So definitely a darker color pink. So it's done its job. 500 hours, we kind of went beyond where I need to. I'd like to do it every 250 hours with the oil change, switch it over. This one I forgot. We didn't have any fuel starvation or anything like that, but it's definitely did its service. A little bit darker than I'd want it to be.
Now you changed this over in New Orleans?
Yeah, I switched it over at 9,500 hours. So we're at 9,600 right now. So we have 100 hours on this new one, on the new filter. So I'm going to disassemble this whole side here, put all new O-rings in it. I'll put a new filter in it, I'll put new, well, I should be able to just open it up and the fuel will gravity fill from the tank into here. We'll get this topped off with fuel.
Now where's that going to go? Either the bag or?
It will go into a bag. I'll let it drain out the rest of the filter there. Let this keep draining into here. Speed it up here. Okay. All right, so that's the end of the fuel that we've drained out of the bowl. So, following the steps on our guideline here. So, drain the system, which this one is drained, this one is not. Remove the cover. There's an O-ring here we'll replace. O-ring here to replace. Next step is to remove the bottom glass. It's actually a plastic bowl. Some of the newer ones have heat shields on the bottom, which are required, like in engine rooms and stuff like that. It was recommended on mine. It's just a metal shield here, preventing fire, but there's nothing under here. I'm not too worried about having a heat shield on the bottom of this fuel since it's not in the engine room, and I just don't know what would catch on fire, heat it up enough to cause it to have fire. So we'll just have the plastic shields. So the bottom comes off with 4 of these bolts. Everything's a little slippery with the fuel on their gloves, but there we go. Says to remove this ring, remove the bowl. So here's another O-ring that's going to come off. It should be the exact same size as the lid, but I'm going to keep it separate so we know which one goes where. I'll compare with the new ones. You can see it is, there's some gunk in there.
Ooh.
So it definitely needed, I may try to look at replacing these with clear ones so we can see the fuel better. These were definitely, and this is, you know, the fuel comes in, this is a selector. So you turn it here, the fuel comes in through here, and it flows up, and it allows any water and all to go lower, and I'll pull the turbine off here, the wheel, and then it penetrates the filter, and then there's a hole here that the filtered fuel goes through to here, and then it's the line that goes to the engine. So this is on the outside of the filter. Yeah, we may try to find some new glasses here because it looked a lot cleaner than it was. But it's good we're getting to it now. But I don't know when this was done last. I don't know if it's ever been done. So, not too bad. I've seen these filters before that are just completely gunked up with water. No, we had no water, which is our main concern with the tanks. So I'll dry this off, clean this up, remove that. There's an O-ring here. There's an O-ring inside here. Hopefully that, because this is not easy to open and close to drain off fuel. So I think it might just be plugged up with fuel. So I'll flush fuel through there, get it all cleaned up. The next step on is fuel bowl gaskets removed. Remove centrifuge by turning counterclockwise. Okay, so that should be this way because it's upside down. Alright, so there's that little magic ball I was trying to figure out where it goes. So we'll watch how we take this apart. This should just go on. I don't think there's a specific side that it can go. It can go in 3 different directions, so keep an eye on that. We'll take this out and clean it. So when the fuel's coming through here, it's spinning, and that's where the water and dirt go and flings out of the fuel. It's a little float ball. It's like a little steel. It's real lightweight. We got a brand new one of those. So that goes in here. I don't see any other gaskets, and you see inside here. That's where
like
the
a little impeller.
Yeah, it's like a little impeller. So it definitely is. It was gunky in there.
You wouldn't want to do that underway, huh?
No, it could be if we had to clean it, but there shouldn't.
With having a separate selector, having 2.
Yeah, exactly. But I know they're both dirty, so we're gonna completely take these apart. There's not much more to take apart on this than this in the bowl. But I'm gonna get in here real well and clean up this passage in here, up underneath there, clean that real well, and then. Check ball, remove check ball, razor blade, cut away existing gasket from drain. So this is step 9, which are these little valves. We don't have a heater feed through, which is this little thing. Ours is an older system. Remove water probe, that's number 11. That's on here. Existing gasket from drain, remove drain fittings. So that's as far disassembled as we're going to take it. A lot easier than I thought, really. So I'll spend some time and get this all cleaned up. We'll research some new globes on here. We might be able to get those pretty quick. This way I have clear ones instead of yellowed ones. We'll confirm all the right size gaskets and reassemble it, and then go to the next one. So what I'll do is I'll reassemble it, get this one flowing, switch it over to this one, run the engine, make sure we have no airlocks or any issues with that. Probably just run the wing engine for a little while and get the fuel flow. We'll check our vacuum on it, and then when we know it's good, I'll take the other one apart. I'll go ahead and replace the filter now on it. A little bit early, but I want to get this all done while we're here in Demopolis. Alright, it's time to have a mechanical room. Here's the bowl. Got the ring. Got the little turbine thing in the bowl. We ordered 2 new ones instead of putting these old discolored ones back on. They're not leaking or anything, but the new ones will be clear.
So you'll hold off for a few days before putting them back together? Or?
Yeah, I'm not going to take the other one apart. I'm going to go clean this one apart, clean it all up anyways, and then just see how it all works and all. But the new one comes with the new drain valve. I think this one, why it was so hard, is it was all gunked up. So we'll clean the little venturi, I guess it's called. Get this all cleaned up, and these are all in still good shape. And so we'll order the new bowls, and say we still needed to get underway. I'll still have that one connected, and then we'll get this all cleaned up, get the new bowl, and reinstall it.
Alright, so he's putting the other bolts in there.
Alright, here's the new lid. Or
Put a new gasket in there too?
Yeah, so these gaskets come with filters. So this gasket kit we bought initially really didn't use any gaskets out of it, because when we bought the bowl it came with all the gaskets. So if you need bowls, don't waste some money on a gasket kit, because a lot of these gaskets are for a different model. The metal flame guard on the bottom, that's what those two green gaskets are for. The filter comes with the top gasket, and also the little O-ring that would take place of this O-ring here. We're not going to use this T-handle. I'm going to go ahead and take off this old O-ring though. Put the new O-ring on, because we'll have this just as a standby. And then our new gasket here.
You need to put silicone or diesel on it?
I'll
or
put
no?
some, this is going to be full of diesel here in a second, but we can put a little bit of diesel on there. So it's pressed in here so it doesn't fall out. My diesel
Is in the wrong color container.
wrong color, but that's all the gas station had, so I've marked it. This is what I use for filling up filters. So need a little bit of diesel on board like that.
I've never seen a tiny yellow.
They have them.
Okay, I just haven't seen them very often. I've seen
Yeah.
the big 3 or 5 gallon ones.
Alrighty, so what I'm going to do is just get a little bit of diesel on my hand here. I got the little cloth to protect everything. So what I think I'm going to do, I don't think it'll allow any air in. By switching this over, in theory, should gravity fuel, there we go. So it's coming out of the tank, it's filling the bowl from the tank.
And it's going to keep continuing going up.
Yeah, it'll keep coming up. I'm going to turn it off once I see it in here.
Oh, that makes it so much easier than trying to pour it in there.
Yeah. We'll see how far it comes up. It may slow down, but it's... Oh, here it comes. Alright, it shuts off pretty quick, so I'm going to bring it up.
I see it. There it
Might bring it up just a tad more. Shut it off.
goes. Recede it a little bit.
Okay, I'm going to use this to top it off here. Honestly, I don't think topping it off is really going to do much anything. As soon as I put the lid on it and open it all the way, it's going to fill all the way up. Looking for leaks. So far so good. The lid's going to go back on here. Same distance here. Alright. I haven't tightened this down yet. I have to use a wrench to tighten this vacuum on here, because I didn't want to get it tight and then it, be backwards. So we're going to spin this on, see how it sits. Actually pretty good like that. Now I'm going to get a wrench and tighten it just a little bit more. It states you can use a gasket material on here if it leaks, but I don't know. Maybe I should try it. And they say don't use your use the gauge to tighten it. It's pretty loose, so I'll probably get 2 more turns out of here. I think I will put a Teflon tape on there. And then this one, like I said, doesn't work. This one here has a little valve, they say, to lift it up. This one has sort of a cover, but it's not lifted up. So I don't know if that's...
Maybe it was vacuumed down or just
It might have been. But it's more of a rubber. So I'm not going to mess with that, because if I do open it up, then fuel can leak out of it. Alrighty. So what we'll do, so here's the difference. I don't honestly think the lenses really made a huge difference. But it kind of did. So here's the old one.
I can see the
And that's what I
debris
usually
in there.
check with a flashlight. So you can definitely see the debris on that diffuser thing. Over here, yeah, I can see the diffuser. So it's a little bit clear. It's worth, those things are definitely getting a little bit older.
Yeah, I think I paid $84 each.
Yeah, and now we have new petcocks too. So this one still gets a little stiff when you try to open it up to drain it and shut it. So we will put these in the free boat part desk at a marina somewhere. Someone has some that are in worse shape than ours. All right, so skill level 1 to 5. 1 being the easiest, 5 being the hardest. I'd put it out of 2. Difficulty 1 and a 5. 1 being the easiest, probably 2. Not too much to it. Basically, shut off the fuel supply, drain it out, disassemble it, install new gaskets on it. Of course, we got a new filter on it and a new T. So I think what we'll try to do is, I just thought that was a staining of that. I didn't realize that's the crud in there. And it's not that bad, but it's could be better. So we'll keep an eye on these, and if I need to drop these off and clean them, I've got 4 extra gaskets for the bottom. So we can take that off, clean it, put new ones back on. I won't have a new gasket for that, but I'll have, that ball will go with that one. So we'll keep an eye on those a little bit better, just make sure we have good quality fuel in there. And then I'm curious to see how our vacuum works. It has a chase around needle, and so it'll push it to where it's at. And the idea is if this black needle is the actual vacuum, if it gets up into the red, that means the filter's being, it's too much vacuum created. So we'll see where it sets. Again, this one has never moved, so it's just above the 0. So we'll get this all set up. We'll start up the engine. I'm not going to switch this over until I get this secured. And we'll see what our vacuum gauge shows. Alrighty, I'm going to go use tape. This is a yellow one. It's approved for petroleum products. I'm just going to put probably one little loop around it. These are pretty tight threads. Alright, so I'm going to turn it this way. I want to put it on like this. Alrighty, fuel's already coming up, leaching into here, so we will start threading it on here. (9/16) wrench. So the vacuum gauge will again tell us what the pressure is on the filter and when to change it. If I remember right, our engine says 6 inches of vacuum. This gauge says anywhere up above 7 or 10, most pumps are not able to pump that. So we will set a sort of a standard and a baseline and kind of go from there. See what a new filter does. What I may even do is run it on this one, see where we're at, and then switch it over here. This one has about 100 hours on that filter, so I'd be kind of curious to see what pressure is between a brand new one and one with 100 hours on it. So I've switched it over now. It's pointing to the filter that the fuel is coming through and sending back to the engine. So this one's now out of service. I've got the cloth down here looking for any drips, any leaks. And dry this up. Dry this real well. Keep an eye on that. Make sure there's no leaks coming out of it. Alrighty, we will go up, start the engine, let it run for a while. So we want to make sure it runs, make sure there's no air bubbles that somehow got in here, which I don't see how there could. All the air is being pushed up, but there could always be some air bubbles. Alrighty, let's go up, get it started and see what this does.
I think the hissing noise is the stabilizer. Water goes through there. So what's this gauge supposed to do while it's started now?
Well, if there's any blockage on the filter, it'll increase.
Okay, since the filter's brand new, it's not going to really do anything, correct?
No, we'll let it run for a little bit, see where it's at, and then I think I'll switch it to the other side to get a idea, what the difference is.
Alright, Jim is going to let this run for 10 minutes to make sure the engine does not starve. There's nothing down here that has dripped. Looking at the yellow Teflon tape, I think it's Teflon. Nothing there. So I'm going to head on up. So Jim is revving the engine to see if this black needle is going to move. Bringing it back down to idle. I'm just going to let him know that nothing has changed. Oh, he shut it off. All right. The man is coming down. Nothing moved, honey.
I think it doesn't take much vacuum at all, so maybe that other needle works and it just doesn't go more than above about 1 inch of vacuum. So I've been pulling fuel. I've never had fuel starvation, so we'll keep an eye on it. I'm going to hold off because if I take that gauge off that filter, all that fuel is going to pour over.
Yes.
So I'm going to let it sit for a little while, and I think I'm going to take it off and switch it to the other one just to see if we can establish a base with 100 hours on the filter.
Okay.
definitely a little sludge in there. Time to clean out. New gaskets, new bowl, new filter. It'll be as clean as this one. Alright, I'll clean this all the way out. You can see definitely some crud up in those edges there. We want to get all that out. The big thing with the old bowl is make sure that gasket comes out. That gasket sits right up under here, so you got to make sure that gasket is out. And then this little gasket that sits on top of here, that kind of retains the aluminum ball backflow valve. And if you look at it, it's got a lip on it. That lip goes upwards and it connects, I don't know if you can see that, onto that pipe there. That's where the fuel will flow through, and I believe it comes out here, or it flows in and then somehow works its way through the filter, then back down here, and then down. And all the crud gets in there. Any type of water, I believe, is what that bowl is for. If there's water in there, it'll float up and then block the valve. All right, we'll get it all cleaned up and start reinstalling. You definitely see the crud that was in there. So what I've learned, I need to open these up and drain them a little bit more often to get all that crud. This could be from years, literally years of crud coming out of the fuel tanks, which isn't too bad considering if that's been in there a while. And what's happening, there was so much in there when I was opening these, not a whole lot of fuel was coming out. I didn't realize, that's because it was all blocked up. So we'll do better and drain it and do samples and make sure there's no water or crud. Again, there's no water at all in either of these, which is a real good indication that the tanks are healthy. Definitely some crud in there. Most of it's pretty good. There's a little chunk there that came out. That's kind of gross. But all the other passages are nice and clean. So finished cleaning it up and reinstalling it. Okay, on our model, there's a little plug here. It goes on the side. It's for some other type of sensor. I'm not sure what it's for, but it was a plug. I did not see it on this one. It's back here. But it did come with an O-ring out of the kit. So I went ahead and took this out, cleaned it. It's got a cavity in there, and there's some crud in there. So we got that all clean. New O-ring on it. Wasn't leaking, but go ahead and install it with the new O-ring. It just threads in on the side. It's not real easy to get to with the screwdriver, but it turns relatively easy. We'll cinch it in there. Again, none of these are really tight. Just a couple turns, get it cinched in. Should probably be using a bigger screwdriver, but there we go. A little bit tight. Okay, I've got that bolt or plug back in there. We got our new bowl. It's a Parker. There's the part number. There's our old one. Again, the old one's not bad, but that drain valve, it's all plugged up. And so we will get this one. I'll put the new drain plug and get this all ready, and we'll install that here shortly. Alright, there's a little petcock, the drain plug. I just put a little bit of motor oil on each of the rubber gaskets. Thread the new ones on. I'll cinch those down here in a second. Use my handy dandy paint stirrer. Alrighty, we'll get this on a little bit tighter. And I'll be ready to install. Okay, here's our seal kit. Comes with tons of gaskets. Here's basically what we need out of this kit is that ball, and then this gasket for the that holds the ball in place there. This one. So that's going to go in here, but I got to put the ball in there first. Just drops in, and this gasket goes with the lip upwards. It sets in there, so these two plastics go like this, inverted, and then it's going to go, make sure it's set correctly. There's the ball. You can see this outside lines up with those grooves there. And we'll go inside here. Not sure if you get a good picture of that or not. It's kind of hard to see it from here. Alright. And we'll tighten it on there. Make sure it lines up. Again, it's just a hand tight. Okay, everything's lined up here. Alrighty. We'll be ready for the bowl. So here's the new gasket. Goes up inside here, which ends up on top of the bowl. You can see the old one stayed with the bowl, so it's stuck on there. So this one we're going to install inside the groove up inside here. And to hold it in place temporarily, we'll use silicone grease. I'll just coat this, stick it up in there, hold it because it still wants to come down, and we'll place the bowl. This part on this backflow, it moves up and down on those channels, and it'll get pressed up against that seal, and then the bowl will hold that in place. So you can see it kind of goes up and down and stays on those seals. There'll be a little gap there. I think you might be able to see it on that one. So it rides up on those, gets pressed up with the bowl, and then the bowl retainer. Okay, this side, that gasket just did not want to stay up inside there. So it's the right gasket. They're all the same, top and bottom, that's what I found. So I'm going to just go ahead and mount it on here, slide this up inside there, and then just slowly work it way in there and make sure it captures into the groove. Okay, that worked actually pretty easy. So you can see inside there, the plastic's all lined up. bowl is flush. And then the retainer still a little bit loose. I don't have the back bolt on, but I'm going to get down a little bit lower, turn it, make sure it's turning smooth, and do a 360 with it. Then I know that ring is set up in there, and put that last bolt on back here. It's kind of hard to get. I use an extender, and then make sure it's set. I'll set my petcock and drain where I want it, and then we'll tighten all 4 of those bolts up. Okay, I got them both marked. So you can see this was the filter was new at 9671.2, which is right now, and it's in use at 9671. So why do that? This one will show it's in use when we turn it on, basically. So it's new at the same time. It is pointing this direction right now because I need to fill up this chamber and put in the top filter. So I've shut off the fuel manifold over here. I'll open this up. That'll allow fuel to come up this tube, and you can see it's filling up the cavity. I'm going to go ahead and shut this off right now. Put in the filter. So this indication is that they're both off. If I turn it pointing this direction, this one's on. If I rotate it all the way down, pointing that, it's going to pull off both filters. Not sure why you do that. Maybe if it's, just need more fuel. Yeah, I'm not sure why they would do that. Just an option. It's a 4-way valve. Alright, so just thinking everything's back in there. The filter is now on. It's a 10 micron filter. And these are our primary filters. This is the first filter that all the fuel through our manifold comes to, and then it goes to the engine. And then it goes through a smaller micron filter going into the engine. Alright, so let's open this back up, and it'll start coming up to fill this cavity up. And it's about there. I'm going to try not to overflow it. Absorbing into the filter, so you see kind of coming down a little bit. So I'm going to go ahead and put the lid on. Here's our new lid. Well, not new lid, but a lid with new gasket. Since I'm going to go back to this one, I'm going to put the T-handle on here. I don't want them both open at the same time. So new rubber gasket on here. I'm going to leave it gap just a little bit so air can come out. Turn it back on. There it goes. Ooh, a little more than I thought, but we know there's no air in there now. Shut it back off. And I've got an absorbent pad here, so a little bit of a mess, but we'll get it cleaned up. Alrighty, both of them new bowls, new filters, O-rings. We'll leave this towel under here to make sure there's no leaks. Right now it's fuel in here. I just wanted to run, make sure that's all purged out. What we'll do is switch it over to the new filter. So it's in use right now at 9671. We'll run that for 200 hours, 250 hours with the oil change probably. And then we'd switch it over here, we'd put that new hours here, and then I'd install a new filter, and then the new filter will just be here, and then when it's in use I'll put the time. Again, that vacuum's not doing anything. Maybe I'm just assuming that the vacuum would be more, but on here it does talk about 28 inches replace element series working vacuum at 28 inches. So that would be all the way over here in the red. This is the one I can set here. I don't want it to go that far. I'm just going to go when it this is kind of a hard needle. The outside needle is our max, which I think I'm going to put it about here. And then then the follow needle is, so when we're underway, you know, when we're pulling a lot of fuel through there, the black needle can come up, you know, in say this area, and then when we bring the idle, it'll go back down. So this will tell us what the highest needle setting, the vacuum pressure is for that day. So we'll set it back there. And I may see about just putting this gauge here. Take this gauge out and just have this one, then go back to the normal T-handles. So I'll research that. All right, thank you for following along as we rebuilt our Raycor filters, the Model 900s. Pretty simple. I'll retighten this pipe here, this hard pipe. This is our main fuel fluid. It was seeping a little bit, so I backed it off, retightened it, so I'm hoping that has stopped seeping. It would usually just be a drop or two after a day's run. All right, appreciate it.
Thank you for joining us on our journey of the America's Great Loop. And Jim in the mechanical room working on the fuel system. We really appreciate you being here, clicking like and subscribing. We'll be putting out more maintenance videos as the boat will be pulled out here shortly.